All right, so this afternoon's class is going to deal with supervisor training. This is basic training 9. Today I'm going to be showing you pretty much all the scheduling tasks that your supervisors will be doing through the system. Now, everything they're going to need to be able to do from a basic scheduling standpoint will be done through the web portal. Which is available, obviously 24/7 on any device that, has internet connection. So what we're looking at right now, I'm going to be demonstrating, all of these things on my own database. So I have my, my web portal's login screen up right now. Let me just sign in. Okay, so a rough, kind of outline of what we're going to be going over today. First, we're going to just take a look at the schedules. What schedules show what, just kind of go over what we're looking at. We do offer 6 schedules, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, things like that. We will also be going over how to adjust start and end times for our employees. So if someone, is maybe coming in late today, or they're coming in earlier and getting out early, I'll show you how to adjust those times, whether it's for one day or for a date range. I'll show you how to move employees from one shift to another shift, how to add any comments to an employee's name, that way they show up on the daily schedule. We'll be going over all the time off functions, such as putting either, myself or someone else on time off, how to edit time off entries, and how to manage time off requests, meaning, approve requests. After that, I'm going to be showing you how to do the same thing for overtime, put in overtime either for myself or someone else, how to edit overtime entries, and how to manage overtime requests. I'm also going to be showing you how to put a switch in for 2 people if they've requested a switch. I'm also going to show you how to approve switches. And then I'm going to be showing you how to assign either jobs or schedule details to, specific employees. And then after that, I just have a handful of reports I will briefly touch upon, such as a time off activity report, overtime activity report, the employee statistical report. And like I mentioned earlier, after each topic that we go over today, all right, let me rephrase that. After most of the topics that we go over today, I'm going to give you guys, 5 minutes to kind of just do, repeat what I showed you on your own system, just so you can actually get a handle and some hands-on experience doing these tasks. Because like I said, the best way to learn the system is just simply by using it. And then while you're doing it, if you have any questions or anything like that, you can ask me while you're actually doing it. So when this class is done, you should have a pretty firm grasp on supervisor tasks and functions and how to do that or do those tasks through this web portal. So before we get started, does anyone have any questions? All right. So I see that we do have more people in here. So what I'm going to do, just to get the best recording, quality-wise as possible, I'm just going to mute the mics. If you do have any questions while I go over anything, please use the button that, kind of raises your hand through GoToTraining, or you could just, use the chat function. If you have a question or need me to repeat anything, you can just let me know either by, raising your hand or using the chat function. But like I said, once we're done with each topic, I will go ahead and open up the mics. We'll do a quick workshop, and then we'll move along, when everyone is ready to advance. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so now the mics are muted. So the first thing we're going to go over today is just, viewing the schedules in the web portal. So we're going to find View Schedule, that menu, from the main menu bar that stretches across the top. We're going to click on View Schedule, and now you'll notice that it opens up a View Schedule, sidebar over here. And now down below is just, all the particular schedule views that we offer. So we'll just take it from, top to bottom. We'll take a look at the daily schedule first. Okay. So this daily schedule, it's showing us, based on shift, who's working today, and any particular assignments, time off entries, or overtime entries that kind of correspond with that shift. You'll notice it's divided into tiles. Each tile is just a shift. So we have patrol day, patrol night, detective, records, administration. So we'll stick with this one for now. This is just showing us, who's working, and it's organized based on, title and then seniority. And now you'll notice we do have some columns to the left and the right of the names. This first column, job, if anyone was assigned to a particular job assignment, not schedule detail, just job assignment, that code would show up next to the person's name in this column here. And then we have our name. Now under details, this is going to show any schedule details that were assigned to us, whether it's a vehicle or a particular piece of equipment. If any of those were assigned to anyone on that shift, they would show up here. And now another thing I do want to point out, if we go, say, down here, you'll notice that for Lieutenant Jones, she has a set of times next to her name, but no one else on that shift does. Well, that just means that she's working these hours on that shift. So these hours might be different than the normal admin hours. So if we ever saw times next to someone's name, that just means that they're working hours that are different than the normal shift hours. And if we don't see any times next to someone's name, that just means that they're working the default start and end time. So for admin, if this shift is from 8 to 1600, all of these people are working 8 to 1600, but she's starting an hour earlier, hence the times. Now, this daily schedule will also show time off entries. It will show the time off code and the hours that someone has, been put off. And it will also show any overtime entries. Now, as far as navigating the date, if we use this calendar pop-up right here, we can select any day that we want, as far as the schedule is built out for. So if everyone's only put on a schedule until December 31st of this year, if I try looking at March of 2017, I'm not going to see anything because no one's actually put on that schedule. We also have these buttons over here. This Today button just brings us to today's date. These two interior buttons with the arrows on them, that's just to go back a day or go forward a day. And then these two exterior arrows, they are double arrows. This just kind of gets squeezed in due to my screen resolution. These are just to go back a week or go forward a week. Now through this drop-down, we can select what web dashboard we want to use, or which web dashboard we want to view. So if you have one, it's just going to default to that. If you have multiple, you can pick and choose which web profile you want to view. And the last thing I do want to talk about, actually the second to last thing, this validate button. If we want to view how our shifts are doing, minimum staffing level wise, if I click this validate button, you'll see that this shift has turned red because I have no one working it today. That means that we're falling below minimum staffing. The rest of the shifts are green, meaning that we're either at or exceeding our minimum staffing levels. And the last thing as far as the daily schedule is concerned, you'll notice, we can only really keep or show 6 tiles at once. If we do have additional tiles, maybe on another page that you've set up in the web dashboard, we could use these buttons to navigate the pages. So if I clicked on this button, it would take me to the next page worth of shifts for the day. So that is the daily schedule. Next, we're going to go to the monthly calendar. You'll notice that we have a monthly calendar, and then a monthly schedule right after that. What's the difference? Well, the monthly calendar is your own, personal calendar. You're not going to see anyone else's. This is really just for your own personal time management, whereas a schedule is showing what everyone's working for the month. So anytime you see the word calendar, that's your personal calendar. Anytime you see schedule, that you're going to see everyone. So the monthly calendar is, pretty straightforward. Right now, it's just showing us a monthly calendar view, and you'll notice it's going to show the shifts that we're scheduled to work. So PD days, that's my normal schedule. Now it's also showing us time off requests and or time off entries, I should say. And you'll notice we have something in green right here, something in blue. Well, if we take a look at this color map down here, anytime we see something in blue, that means that is a requested time off entry, meaning it has not been approved or denied yet. If it's been approved, like this one here, it shows up in green. If it's approved with a stipulation, it will show up in yellow. And if that time off entry has been denied, it will show up in red. As far as, selecting what month you want to view, you can use this drop down and just simply select the month you wish to view. Or you can use this left button, this left arrow button to go back a month, go forward a month, or go to the current month. So if I select October, this is what I'm working in October, but I want to jump back to this month, so now it's going to bring me back to July. You'll also notice that we can jump right into the request overtime screen or the request day off screen from here. We'll get into that in a little bit. Now let's take a look at the monthly schedule. And like I said, now it's not a calendar anymore, it's a schedule. So we're going to see, everyone, or everyone we're allowed to at least. So looks a little different. Now, with the monthly schedule, as opposed to showing your entire department at once, which would make the screen almost a nightmare to view, it's broken up into groups. So based on the groups that you put into the system, you just select the group and it will refresh itself. And now it's showing the people who belong to that particular group on the left. And then these abbreviations are just, shift abbreviations. So in this case, D for days, N for nights, however you had it entered in your system when you were building your shifts is how it's going to show up here. Now you'll also notice we see a blue little box, and it might be a little hard to read, but it's just saying, it's a V with a question mark next to it in blue. That is a requested vacation day. Has not been approved yet. It's just sitting in requests, which, you know, is why it's showing up in blue. So the monthly schedule will also show any time off, you know, entries as well. So now let's go to single shift. Now the single shift schedule, it's very, very similar to the daily schedule, except whereas the daily schedule is going to show you all shifts, here we just select a particular shift we want to view. So let me go to a shift that actually has some people on it. And now you'll notice it looks a lot like the daily schedule. As far as these buttons up here, they all operate the same way. We have our validate button, our calendar pop-up, these buttons to jump you know, back or forward a week or a day. And it's going to show us the same information, job assignment, name, any hours if they're different, as well as schedule details. Now the next schedule we have is the weekly schedule, which is very similar to the monthly schedule in that it is group-based once again. So if I select my group, it's just going to show us, you know, who, based on who is assigned to that particular group, what they're working. And now we're not as limited in screen space anymore. So we can actually, you know, show more than just a one-character abbreviation. Now I can see PD records. If I jump to Squad A, okay, I guess I don't have anyone in Squad A. Squad B, though, I have, you know, night shift, night shift, night shift. Weekly schedule will also show time off entries as well. And as far as, you know, using this calendar pop-up, you know, any day we select, it's just going to pull up that, you know, week, whatever week that particular day falls in, it's going to pull up the whole thing. And then the last schedule view is the yearly calendar. Now this is pretty much the monthly calendar times 12, right, for each month of the year. Now, because it has the word calendar in it, that you know, goes to show that that is your personal yearly calendar. You'll notice I can't pull up anyone else. This is just what I'm scheduled to work throughout the year. And once again, similar to the monthly calendar, it's showing us what shift or shifts we're scheduled to work throughout the year. And any day off entries, you know, so here's that approved day off, here's that requested day off that we've seen before. That color map is up here just in case you forget. And then we also have that, you know, the request overtime and request day off links up here as well. So let me unmute the mics. So if you want, I'll set aside, you know, a couple minutes right now if you want to just kind of go into your own system and view your own schedules, just to kind of get a look at, you know, how your department looks on these schedules. If you have any questions while kind of, you know, playing around with those schedule views, just, you know, let me know, and we'll get rolling on the next topic in say, you know, 2 to 3 minutes. Does anyone have any questions about what they're seeing, and anything at all that that you want to address while we're on this topic? All right. Well, with the schedule views, it is very simple, very straightforward, very easy to use. So we'll move right along, just so we can stay on task. So next, I'm just going to show you some basic scheduling functions that your supervisors may or may not be using. Things such as changing an employee's schedule times for a day or a set of days, if we're moving them to another shift, if we need to view a particular entry, the viewing an entry will show us, time off or overtime request, and everything's timestamped, so it'll show us, who requested what, who approved what, things like that, and also when. And then I'll show you how to add comments to someone's name, just in case we need to reiterate any information for a particular person on a given day. So let's go back to the daily schedule, and I'm using the daily schedule as an example because for the majority of people who use the system, the daily schedule is kind of just their home screen. When they log in, it's the first thing they see, and they can often access a lot of tasks through this screen. So let's say that Sergeant Lopez, or better yet, Officer Ferguson is coming in an hour early today, and getting out an hour early today. If I need to adjust their schedule times, I can just click on their name, and now what happens is it's going to open up the single shift view just to kind of focus on that one particular shift where the person that we selected is working. And now you'll notice that we have this view schedule menu here because that's the item I clicked. But now down below it, we also have two additional menus. We have an employee menu, and there is Officer Ferguson's name because I clicked on him. So now all these screens below are things I can do for that specific employee. And then below that is a shift menu with screens kind of showing us things that we can do for that entire shift. So let's click on change schedule times. And now it's just showing us a list of everyone who's working, that day. Shows us, the date and shift. Now we can just click, and start and end time in those fields and, kind of pop in new schedule times that, this person or multiple people are working. So maybe they're getting started a bit earlier. I popped in the new times. I click save, and now you'll see that next to his name are those new schedule times just for that day. So that's one way of doing it. Also, if I go to Supervisor now, by clicking on Supervisor up here, this is opening up the Supervisor sidebar, and all of these are, typical supervisor tasks. You'll see once again, change schedule time shows up here. And now maybe if I'm not doing it for a specific person, maybe I'm doing it for a group of people. Here's my list under not selected. This is just a list of all the employees. So I can just select them, click that arrow to move them over into the selected list. So now everyone in selected are going to be affected by the next couple of things I do. And now I said before, we can do this for a day, like how it's set up now. This is just from the 27th to the 27th. Or I can, you know, extend it out till the 29th. So from today to Friday, these new times that I put down here are going to be their work times. Now, if we selected people, you know, on the same shift, we could just select that particular shift here. If they're working, you know, different shifts, I can just click on the checkbox, all shifts, put in my new start and end times, and the last thing I need to do is go ahead and just check the boxes next to the days where this change is taking effect. So an example of this would be, you know, say I'm adjusting the schedule times for the week, but maybe on Thursday these schedule times don't apply. Well, instead of doing two separate times, one for Monday through Wednesday and then again on Friday, I could just put in the date range and then just turn on the days by checking the box, you know, for the times when I want them to be effective. So any boxes that I don't check, whatever I put in here won't actually happen on that day. Once I'm done, I just click refresh. So if you want, go ahead and just take a look at that screen now. So if you want to go to Supervisor, change schedule times, and just, you know, put in a fake entry, if you will, and I'll unmute the mics just in case anyone has any questions.
Well, I had a question. It was just for us, our canine guys, they work 10 hours, but 2 hours they get paid to take care of the dog, so they're not really on the schedule, but for the payroll they are. How would I handle that?
So with that, I would recommend creating a, you know, there's a couple of ways you can do it. One, you can create like a canine shift that takes place, you know, those 2 hours that they're working with the dog and getting paid, but they're not officially on the schedule. Or this might be more, you know, kind of labor intensive, but you could just put them on a day off code for the first 2 hours of their shift, you know, which shows that they're not, you know, working those hours, but they are still going to get paid for those hours. So it's really up to you. The easiest thing to do would just be to kind of have that canine shift for, you know, 2 hours, or if you have, well, let me ask you this, your canine people, is it always the same times for everyone?
Yeah, well, there's one in the afternoon and one in the morning, but both of them, yeah, they always work the same schedule.
Okay, so what you could do is just create like a canine shift, set it from midnight to midnight, making it a 24-hour shift, and then when you put people on that shift, you're just going to specify, you know, the 2 hours when you assign them to that particular shift. So even though it's a 24-hour shift, they're only going to get put on it for 2 hours. Sherry, did you have any questions?
No.
All right, well, let's move right along. So the next thing I'm going to show you is just if we ever needed to move someone to another shift. You know, this would kind of take place outside of switch requests and anything like that. This is just if we, you know, just had to move someone for, you know, any particular reason, just for the day. If we go back to the daily schedule and say, you know, Officer Foster here, where he's just going to work days today as opposed to nights, I can just select his name. Now I'm going to go to the employment, or, you know, his name, that menu with his name on it, and I'm going to click Move Employee And now it's just saying, you know, this is the person we're moving, this is the date and shift we're moving him from, and then this is the date and shift that we're moving him to. So I pop that in, I click save, and now you'll notice that he's no longer on the night shift. But if I go back to the daily schedule, there he is on the day shift. So if we ever had to move someone to another shift, whether it's a training shift or something like that, it's as simple as clicking on their name and clicking Move Employee. Another, you know, function that you can use is adding a comment to someone's name. So if I just were to go to the daily schedule and click on a particular employee I wanted to add a comment to, I can just click Add Comments. And now what's going to happen is it's opening up that, you know, that shift that we selected. I can, you know, pick another shift if I accidentally clicked on the wrong one. But then next to someone's name in the comment field down here, you'll see that it's all kind of editable. So here I'm just, you know, this is a comment. I click Save, and now you'll see that comment shows up to the right of, you know, any schedule details that may be there. So if for some reason we needed to reiterate, you know, any information that we couldn't do through schedule details or job assignments or anything like that, we can always just put it in as a comment. And then for basic scheduling, one of the last things we're going to take a look at is just viewing entries. So let's just, we click on Officer Ferguson, and we click View Entry. This is just giving us a breakdown of their current day. So here we see work day, what they were, you know, what they're scheduled to work, total number of hours, if there was any shift differential tied to those hours. Now you'll see down here we see post, reason, timestamps. If there was a time off or overtime entry, it would show up below this, and you could just click on it and it would show you, you know, when it was requested, who requested it, you know, who approved it, things like that. If it's overtime, it'll say, you know, what the overtime reason is, what the pay type was, you know, payment type right there. So view entry is literally just, it's just going to show you a breakdown of a particular employee on any given day. So any questions so far? All right, next thing we're going to take a look at is time off. So now we're going to click on Supervisors so we can get that Supervisor sidebar right here. And we're going to actually put in a time off entry. So let's click on Schedule Time Off. Now before we actually get into filling this out, because we're going to do this one together, we do have these three options up to the left: add new entry, show balances, and show time off. So add new entry, if we click on that, you know, it's just going to clear out this field of data. You know, this is for putting in a brand new entry. The next one, show balances, based on who we have selected right here. So as a supervisor, we'll be able to select other people. We select their name. I click show balances. Now it's going to show me the bank balances of that particular employee. By default, the shift starts on, you know, your name, whoever's logged in. But as a supervisor, you can select other people. So the show balances screen, you know, here's our banks on the left. Now we have three columns on the right. This is units given. So, you know, pretty much if you can only take personal time in days, given would be in days. You know, everything would be in days if that's how people take it. If people take it in hours, then this would be hours. So in my example, these are just hours, right? So vacation, I've been given 240 hours throughout the year. Or I'm sorry, this employee has been given 240 hours throughout the year. Used is just showing how many hours they've used. And then balance is showing an available balance. This works, kind of similarly to a checking account, where the, that amount that you spend might not get deducted from your bank right away until it gets processed. So this works similarly. If I have 2, say, personal days left in my bank and I put in 2 requests in December for days off, my available balance would be 0 because I technically have requested to spend those remaining 2 days, so I have nothing left for any other days. Now, balance isn't necessarily what is actually in your bank, it's just what you have left to spend technically. And then the last option, show time off, once again, based on the person I've selected. This is just going to show us their time off activity, so we don't have anything in here. Let me try and select someone else. Hopefully I can find someone who actually has something. But if not, it's just going to show us, whether it's still in request, if it's been approved, if it's been denied, and all the other information that got filled out on this time off slip. So now let's go ahead and do one together. So I'm going to go to my name. What is my name anyways? Simon Peters. So whether it's for ourselves or for someone else, we select that employee's name up top. Then we put in the dates that we're taking off. So this is our start date, this is our end date. Now the end date is not the day you come back, it is the last day you are requesting off. So we can put in a range of days, however, they must be consecutive, meaning if there is a break in your schedule, it would split up that entry. So to give you an example, if I work Monday, Tuesday, I'm off Wednesday, and I work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, if I wanted to take off Monday through Saturday, that would have to be 2 entries, right? One for Monday and Tuesday, one for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Another example, if I work, your basic Monday through Friday, type rotation, and I wanted to take off 2 weeks. Well, that weekend that I'm off is technically a break, so I couldn't do 2 weeks at once. I'd have to do Monday through Friday for 1 week, and then put in a new entry for the next Monday through Friday. So is everyone good with that, the date range and understanding how that's used? So now once we have our date selected, the system's going to kind of refer back to the schedule to see what shift I was scheduled to work on that day. So I was not scheduled to work on the 27th. Let's try the 28th. Okay, maybe I'm not even on schedule. All right, so now I'm going to put in the time off entry for Guy right now. So I have the entry in for tomorrow. Under shifts, I just select patrol night shift. That's the only shift I'm scheduled to work that day. If you have anyone that kind of rotates between shifts, so maybe Monday I work day, Tuesday I work night, if you just leave it set to all shifts, it'll put you off on any and all shifts you're scheduled to work in this date range. And then next I need to select part of day. So pretty much how this is, if you leave it set to entire day, that means you're taking the entire shift off. If you're only taking a partial day, you will then need to select either first or second and then manually put in your time off starting time and time off ending time in there so the correct amount of hours can be deducted. But if you leave it set to entire, you actually don't need to. Once we do that, we need to determine the reason that we want to use for this time off, whether it's, comp, personal, sick, vacation, annual leave. Now, if we're putting this in for someone else as a supervisor, well, chances are we're just going to automatically approve it. You know, we don't need to put in a request for someone else. So I can just select approve. If this is for myself, I can, I'm going to have to select request. If comments are optional. If we have any comments that we would like to add, maybe some further explanation as to why we are taking this time off, we can put that in here. We want to make sure that this send email to defaults button is checked. That way, our emails will automatically go out to the proper people, notifying them of the time off entry. And then we just click save. Your request has been saved. We're good to go. So that's how you put in for time off, whether it's for yourself or for someone else. Does anyone have any questions about that? If you want, go ahead and put one in for yourselves so you can see how easy and how quick it is to actually do it. And just let me know when you're done. That way we can move on to the next topic. The mics are unmuted, by the way.
Yeah, this is Alan again. I just have one question. If someone called down sick, this would be the same process? And if it's
if your department, I'm assuming in your department, if an officer calls out sick, they can't do it themselves. They have to have a supervisor put them out on sick?
Yeah, they notify dispatch just in case it affects staffing levels too.
I got you. Yeah, so this would be how a supervisor does it, right? If your supervisor is the one that actually put someone out on sick, they would do it this way and just select that employee's name from the drop down.
Oh, okay. And would it alert me if it went under staffing automatically, or would I have to go back to the other schedule to look?
Well, as a supervisor, they would have to, once they put that in, they would have to go to daily schedule. So this is, all right, we put it in because, if they're sick, they're not coming in anyways. It's not, we're not going to tell them, no, they can't take off. So we click validate now. Actually, I'm sorry, let's go to tomorrow's date. Let me click validate. So here's that vacation entry. So, okay, we fell below. Now I know I need to get someone in for overtime.
Thank you.
Yep. Sherry, are you okay with putting in time off?
Yes.
Okay, good. So let's go back to that screen, because now I'm going to show you how to, if we need to make any changes to an existing time off entry, I'll show you how we can do that. So we're going to go back into schedule time off. Now, we need to make a change. Obviously, we need to know who the change is for and when the change is for. So I would just select their name. Now I'm going to go into show time off because I want to pull up old entries, and we'll do the one that we just put in for tomorrow. Say, they put in for vacation, but they need to use personal time, or maybe they need to adjust the hours or something. Well, if we just double click on that particular entry, it pulls it up again. So now we can make any changes that we need to. Maybe instead of vacation, it's personal. Or maybe it's only a partial day, any change we might need to make. The only thing we can't change, obviously, is the date and the employee and the shift that the time off code is tied to. So we can change the times, the reason, and the status if we just bring it up from show time off. So I changed it to personal. I click save. Now, you'll notice too, because I said we can change the status, this is one way you can actually use to approve time off. You would just, when you pulled it up, it would just be requested. You would just change that request into an approved and click save. So that's, one way of both editing and approving or denying or approving with a stipulation any, time off entries. The other way that we can approve time off, so that's how we edit time off. If we want to, approve time off in bulk, we can go to Supervisor, Manage Time Off. And now with this Manage Time Off, we need to put in some filters, so we can narrow down exactly what entries we're looking for. So first, you put in the date range. So if I just want to pull up any and all time off entries for this week, I'm going to select July 29th. Then if we're looking for a specific employee, we can use the drop down, or we can just leave it set to all, which is what it's defaulted to. If we're looking for a particular time off reason, or if we're looking for a particular group, if not, leave it set to all. Then you can select the status you want to approve, or check. So right now, this is just going to show me all requested time off entries. It's not going to show me approved or denied time off entries. If we set the status to all, though, it's going to pull, any and all entries. And then it's asking us, what do we want to sort by? Do we want to sort by, the employee seniority or by when it was actually entered? So let's do enter date and click search. All right, so right now I'm only pulling up one entry. So let me just kind of extend this out so I can get more than one entry showing. There we go. So now I have a bunch of entries. And here's, all the information. And you'll notice this screen also shows what their current balance is, so we know, if they have enough time, like these requests right here, we know that they have enough time to actually take this, time off. So it's as easy as using this drop down and changing it from request to approve. Maybe we're going to deny this one. And you'll notice we can also delete entries. I wouldn't recommend deleting any entries because then, you kind of lose them for reporting purposes. So if you mark it as deny, it's the same thing as a delete, right? They're still going to come into work. They didn't get the time off, but you can report on it later on. If you delete it, it's totally wiped from the system. You won't be able to pull up that entry again. So we change the statuses, and if we click Save, it applies those changes. Also, we have these global change buttons up here. This is just, whatever button we click on, it will apply that particular change to all of these entries down below. So to show you an example, if I click on Approve with STIP, all of these entries get marked as approved with STIP. And then, obviously nothing gets saved until we click Save, so we can go back in and make those changes, but I'm going to, deny this one. And then we just click Save. And that's it. It's done. We've approved multiple entries. So does anyone have any questions about that? So if you want, you can go ahead and go to this screen, and if you put in a request or if you put in an approval, you can go ahead and maybe deny it or approve it, whatever you want. But just to kind of get familiar with this, because the next thing we're going to go over is overtime. And the nice thing about that is it operates the same exact way as time off. Information's a little different, but the screens look the same. So, if you're good with this, you'll be good with overtime too. So go ahead and go to the Manage Time Off screen, or even if you want, go ahead and edit the time off entry you put in. And just let me know when you're done, or if you have any questions, so we can move forward. And the mics are once again unmuted, so I'll be able to hear you if you speak into the microphone or phone, however you're connected. Everyone doing okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, Alan, how you doing? Okay. All right, so let's move on to overtime now. And like I said, overtime works the same exact way. So now let's go to Supervisor, Schedule Overtime. Screen looks a little, similar to scheduling time off, doesn't it? So we click this new button. It's going to wipe all this out for a new entry. And if we click Show Overtime, it's going to show us any overtime entries for that person in the employee dropdown. So if it's for us, we can leave it. If it's for someone else, we can select their name. We pop in the date of the overtime, the shift that this person worked the overtime for, the overtime reason, and then based on what reason I selected, I'd select my pay type, whether it's cash or comp, straight or time and a half, depending on how you have it set up in your system. We select it. And now another thing I want to add, if someone does work overtime and they select comp as the method of payment, the second that overtime entry gets approved, those hours go right into their comp bank. So then once we're done, we need to put the hours that the overtime was worked. This does not include regular hours or worked hours. This is additional hours outside of that. In fact, the system will not let you put in for overtime that kind of conflicts with regularly scheduled hours. And so if I work 9 to 5, any overtime entry that crosses into that 9 to 5 time period will not be accepted through the system. And then you put in your total number of hours, or you can leave it blank and it'll automatically calculate. So if you put in minutes in there and you don't want to do the math to figure out the hours, it will do it for you. And then you submit the status. So, if you're putting it in for someone else, you can put it in as an automatic approval. Or you can, if it's for yourself, you would put it in as a request. Now, once again, comments are optional, but a lot of people like to enforce this just to include, more information about the overtime, whether it is a case number or a report number, something to kind of use to, as a reference if you ever had to go back and see what that overtime was for. Now, once again, we want to leave the send email to defaults button checked so the proper people get notified, and then we click Save. Once it goes through, you'll see your request has been saved. We clicked OK, and now it's in there. So let's go to the daily schedule. That was for communication days. Here's that overtime entry. It's showing up in the color I selected in the setup, way back when. And that question mark just kind of denotes that it is requested overtime. So the difference between overtime and time off color-wise is time off entries will change colors based on if it's been approved or not, things like that. Whereas overtime, it will stay the same color, except if it's in request, the question mark is there. Once it gets approved, that question mark goes away. And we did that just so you didn't have to remember 8 different colors. Well, one, we didn't want people to get overtime and time off entries mixed up. and we didn't want to have people remember 8 different colors and, okay, well, this is a requested time off, this is an approved overtime, things like that. So overtime will always be, one color regardless of its status. So does anyone have any questions about putting in, for overtime?
No.
All right, so as far as, editing or approving overtime operates the same way as time off. So now if we go to Supervisor, let's go back to Schedule Overtime. I just select the person, I click Show Overtime, there it is. Maybe, instead of cash, I want comp now. Maybe I need to adjust the hours, or I'm approving it instead of requesting it. So I change it to approve, I click save. Or if we go to manage overtime, so that was for editing an overtime entry. Manage overtime, once again, look, it's the same as manage time off. We put in our filters that we want to look at, the employees. Do I want to see just requests or just approvals, or do I want to see everything? And I'm going to sort it by enter date. I click search. There it is. All right, let's deny it. We click save, and now it's been denied. So if I go back to this. So, like I said, if you're good with time off, it operates the same as overtime. So does anyone have any questions regarding, putting in overtime, changing overtime, or approving overtime? Okay. Sherry, are you good with overtime?
Yes.
All right. So, moving right along, let's take a look at swapping people's schedules. So this is going to be something that, typically your users would do on their own. They would put in a request for a swap, but I'll just show you how they do it anyways, just in case, the supervisors, I suppose, could swap depending on, if your department allows that. So now let's go to, we're going to go to the employee menu. Because like I said, this is typically like a user function, but it doesn't hurt to show the supervisors how it's done. We go to employee. We go to request switch. And now there's 2 different things we can do. We can do a switch, which is pretty much a closed-ended switch. Not switch. It's a closed-ended schedule swap, meaning I know Officer, Bob is coming in to work for me today for this shift, and I'm going to make it up to him on a specific day and shift that both, we both know when we're making it up to each other. That's a switch. If it is open-ended, meaning Officer Bob is going to come in for me on Friday and work my shift, and I'll eventually make it up to him, that's a substitution. That's more of like a gentleman's agreement that, those hours will get made up, because the system will not notify you if you owe someone hours. So like I said, that's more like a gentleman's agreement type thing. But as far as, putting them in, employee requesting switch from defaults to, your name if you're the one requesting the switch, or whoever's name, would be requesting the switch. If we're putting someone on the switch ourselves, we could just select their name. Now this is the date that they're switching off of. And if we click update, the system's going to look to see what they're working. So, okay, Simon is not working that day. Okay, who's working that day? Alright, so now it's only going to show the shift that they're scheduled to work, so that's, she's working the admin shift. And now switching with is the person coming in on this date for this shift. So let's see. We select the date that this person is going to come in to work for them. Oh boy. Okay, I know he's working. All right. So the easiest way to look at this is kind of like an X, right? This person is going to work this date and this shift for that person who's going to work this date and this shift for that. So it's for visual purposes, it acts like an X, and then they click request. Once that happens, supervisors get notified, and then they need to approve it, which I'll show you how to do in a second. Let's submit that in. Okay. I'm just trying to get a legitimate switch going.
I'm good, thank you. I'm going to make you the presenter.
Just give me 1 second. I want to actually get a switch going. So Bill, Foster, and Ferguson. All right, we're switching them. Foster and Ferguson.
And actually, we're going to be working within the web portal. But if you could just log on to
Whoops, wrong Foster. There we go. Request has been saved, so now we're going to approve that in a second once I get done showing you substitutions. Substitutions works very similarly. This is the person who is being taken off the schedule. And then we select the date that they're being taken off. We click update next to shift to see if they're at, what shift they were taking off of, records. And then this is who's going to come in for them. So this is who is owed the hours from this person. If they're only coming in for, partial, a partial day or, a couple of hours on the shift, we put in the specific start and end times here. So I'll just keep this pretty simple. Maybe it's only for an hour. They're just covering them for 1 hour. Then we click request. Okay, guide records. So if it's a legitimate switch, or I'm sorry, substitute, it will let you do it. Right now, my guys don't have matching skill sets, so it's not letting me put it in. For the sake of time, we'll just move right along. Does anyone have any questions as far as putting in a switch or a substitution?
Not yet.
All right. So as a supervisor, to approve these switches, we're going to go to Supervisor, and we are going to click on Change Request Switch Status, because that's exactly what we're doing. We are changing the switch from a request to an approval. So now we pop in, like a date range of all the switches we want to pull up. I click Request. And now here's that entry we put in for Andrew and Bill. Here we can see who the request user was based on their username. So even though it was for Andrew, my username is showing up because I was the one that put it in for him. and also, the timestamp. So supervisors can do this, just in case, a switch got requested that maybe shouldn't have, or if someone, didn't put in the right information, we could see exactly who did it. And now to change this from a request to an approve, I click the expand button next to request, and it's just showing me, all the stuff that we've seen before. I can either approve it, deny it, or delete it. If I click approve, the switch request has been approved. So now if I were to go to the daily schedule, and this is for the 27th, we see here Andrew is now in for Bill, so we see parentheses for that officer. And then on the other, shift, we also see that switch, Bill for Andrew, right there. So as far as switches go, is everyone pretty good with that? I can give you guys some time to go ahead and put an entry in for yourselves, just to kind of play around with it. Whenever, if you are putting in if you are practicing, just let me know when you're done so we can move on to the next one. If everyone's good with it.
I'm done.
Okay. All right. Everyone's good. So now let's take a look at doing job assignments and schedule detail assignments, where we're kind of hitting home stretch now. So if we go to Supervisor, we're going to go down to the bottom of the screen, Update Schedule Details. Now, like I was saying before, with this screen, we can assign anyone to a particular job assignment, any jobs that were created in the Setup Job screen, or any schedule details such as vehicle or equipment assignments that were put into the Schedule Details list. So what we need to do is, we're going to go to Update Schedule Details. We select the employee that we want to, do the assignment for. Then next, it's saying, okay, well, what type? Is it a job? Is it a car? This is going to pull from whatever types you have in your system. So let's leave it set to jobs for now. Now it's asking, what month are we working in? We'll leave it set to July. Now these days in orange are the days that this person is scheduled to work. The days in white, they're off. So now we know exactly when we could, throw these assignments on there. So jobs, or whatever type we selected, is showing up in this list to the left. So if I just drag and drop zone 1 onto the 11th, drag and drop zone 2 onto the 12th, and sometimes it takes a while for them to show up, but they do get saved to that day, even if you don't see it instantly. It could take a few minutes for it to actually pop up. Maybe, training on the 21st, North Patrol on the 29th. And then now, if I get out of jobs and say now I'm going to assign the car, well, now you'll notice that the list on the left changes now based on what I selected. If I select radio, I don't have any radio assignments. AEDs, tasers, I have tasers.
anything that especially the officer signing up for it might need to know. But because it is included, it is not a required field in the
So it's that easy as far as dragging and dropping. And now if I were to go to, say, the daily schedule, let's see.
So those default to one, of course you can go ahead and change it.
I can't remember the exact days that this guy was working, but those details will show up on the right under details right there. And any job assignments would show up on the left. So with that screen, you don't need to click save or nothing like that. Once you're done with someone, you just select the next person on the drop down and kind of, you know, repeat the process for all your guys that need assignments. Does anyone have any questions about, you know, job assignments or schedule details?
I did have one question. Yesterday, I had another class, and it was showing that some equipment is built in permanently if they're permanently assigned to it. So would that show up under the job, or?
So if you permanently assign, you're talking about if you do it when you actually add them to a rotation?
Yeah, like if you put in that, yeah, like they had.
So if I'm assigned to car, you know, 50 for the whole year, that car 50 is my car. I don't actually have to do what I just did. That's just going to show up automatically underneath details.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, but if you're a department where you're kind of rotating, you know, in and out of vehicles or equipment, whatever, that's the screen that you would use. But permanent assignments that you did through the rotations, you know, that will show up. You don't have to actually do anything after that. Let's see. All right, so the only thing we have left to go over are some reports, so we'll be done in a few minutes. If you need me to go over anything once we're done with the reports, we can. But so now, let's go to the reports item on the main menu. And now we have all these reports, and I'm not going to sit here and show you each and every single one. You know, if you're curious, go ahead and play around with it. You know, I'm just going to show you some of the basic ones, but, you know, by all means, you can go ahead and play around with it and see which reports are most beneficial to you. But so, the first one I want to show you is called the Employee Statistical Report. Now this report, it defaults to our name, but as supervisors I can select, you know, anyone else I want. It's going to show us some things that we've already seen before, but it's just nice to kind of have all that information in one area, such as time balances. We've seen this before. Once again, you know, hours or days given, used, and available balance for each bank. Time off activity for this specific person, whether or not it's been approved or still in request. Overtime or any additional hours worked. So here we have an approved staffing shortage overtime. Here is our denied late call that we changed earlier. Now, the administrative days log is going to show anytime hours get put into that person's bank, whether it's, you know, automatic accruals or overtime. If comp hours, you know, if I have an approved overtime for comp, once it's approved, those hours will go into my comp bank. So here, you know, we got front-loaded our personal sick and vacation hours. So we see 48 hours went into my personal bank on January 1st. 36 hours went into my sick bank. 240 hours went into my vacation bank. So all that will show. Your users will be able to see that. Your supervisors will be able to see that. In case there's any discrepancies, you know, you can track that. Now, the last thing on this report of interest, while, you know, maybe for like your basic user, it's not that, you know, big of a deal, but for supervisors, we can pull up work trends. So this is broken down by days of the week, and then we total it at the end. So this is how many Sundays I've worked. I've worked 26 Sundays, 25 Wednesdays, days taken off. I've taken off one Thursday all year. I've worked overtime on one Monday and one Wednesday all year. And then we have a total for days and then total for hours. So I've worked, 2,160 hours. I've taken off 12, and I've worked 20 hours of overtime all year. So this, it could be helpful to your users and supervisors. Everything else, those are, additional modules that, we're just going over the basics today. But, if you're using the training or extra duty module, all that information will show up there. So that's the employee statistical report. The next one I want to show you is an overtime activity report. So it's listed under overtime. They're all broken up by the type of report it is. So under overtime, it's the only one we have, overtime activity report. So we need to set some filters for this is if we want to, report on overtime activity for either everyone or a handful of people or a specific person. So it's defaulted to the whole year. I'll leave it, like that. Next, I click on employees and just, I could check, specific names, or I can just set it to all if I want to report on all overtime this year. Next, it's going to ask me, well, what overtime reasons do we want to report on? If I want to just do late calls and staffing shortages, I just check those two boxes. But I'm just going to leave it for all. I'm going to set it to all for now. And then if we had any more filters, we could do it by payment type. If I want to report on just cash overtime or just time, but I'm not actually going to use that. So right now I'm casting a very wide net. I'm just pulling in all overtime essentially. I click search, and now here's, all the information for all overtime this year. We see, the group, the employee, the overtime reason, the date, the shift, the pay rate, the hours, the pay type, whether it was approved or denied. And now, so far in my own database, I've only used two, but we also have this pie chart that kind of gives you a breakdown. So, 39 hours of staffing shortage overtime, 12 hours of late call. If the pie chart doesn't do it for you, we have a bar graph as well. So once again, once you start using a lot of different overtime entries, it's going to look a little different. Right now, I've only used two, ever, late call and staffing shortage. But now we can also export this report into either a PDF or an Excel spreadsheet. We can also save this chart if we, want to. We can hide that chart just by clicking on that arrow, bringing it back. So this is, a handy report if you want to just kind of, view all overtime activity for, either one person, a couple people, or everyone. So now if we go to, now I'm going to show you the time off activity report, which is almost the same thing as this, except for time off. So we go down to time off and click on time off activity report. Once again, we set the filters. It's nothing we haven't seen before. I'm going to cast a very wide net. I'm going to select all employees and all reasons. Click search. Now here's all, time off activity for everyone. We can see, the status, whether it was approved, requested, or denied, the reason, hours, everyone who took it. So now here we have 24 hours of personal time off being used, 48 hours of vacation hours, and 48 hours of sick time being used. Once again, you can export it out into a PDF or Excel. So those are, just the basic reports. Like I said, we do offer more. So by all means, play around with it, see which ones are beneficial to you. I just showed you some basic ones. So does anyone have any questions regarding, the reports? Better yet, does anyone have any questions about, anything we went over today? Because that was the last topic we had to go over. The mics are unmuted, so I'll be able to hear if you're talking into the microphone or phone.
I'm good. Thank you for everything.
Not a problem. I do want to mention before you leave, if you run into any trouble or need to go over anything again, or if there's anything department specific that maybe needs to get addressed, we do offer the help out session. So it's 45 minutes of one-on-one time with either myself or another associate from VCS, where we can address anything that needs to be addressed. We do have a knowledge base. The website's just www.vcs4, that's the number 4, and then the letter u.com, so vcs4u.com. That's kind of like our support site. If you forget how to do anything, you just type in what you're looking for in the search bar, kind of like Google, searches based on keywords. And it will, give you results, whether it's articles or videos, So anytime you forget how to do something, you can always just look it up in our support site and refer to any articles, or, sign up for a class if you don't know how to do something. So the resources are there. We're pretty much throwing everything at you to, make sure you're as successful as possible with our system. So if no one else has any questions, we can go ahead and end this session.
Yeah, so in this case, right, let's say there was more than one open shift created.
All right, I don't think anyone has any other questions, so I'll go ahead and end the session. Like I said, we do have those resources, and I'm sure I will be, working with both of you, in a future class sometime in the future. Have a good day.